Let's talk social media ads. So it's probably the one that you, as just an everyday person, you've been most exposed to in the digital space. Um, I think it's something like 80% of people have a Facebook, 75% of people have an Instagram. So the odds are that you, and probably for your business, you have one as well. So you know the basics of what it looks like to receive those ads, but you may or may not have given those ads out before. You may not have trafficked those ads before. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the theory of it, why they're different than search ads. And then after that, we're going to go into how to actually send some of these ads, how to create some of them yourself. So let's go to the screen here. A really important thing or really important principle of paid social advertising is the intent of the buyer. So when a lot of people first start out advertising online, they say, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of Facebook ads, I'll make a bunch of Instagram ads, I'm going to make a bunch of money, without a consideration into intent. So the reason I like Google Ads so much, I've mentioned before, is people are telling you what they want. In social media, they're not. So what we're doing here is we're instead targeting people based on who they are and what they do, rather than what they've told you that they want, right? They're not just right in social media searching for a certain thing. Now, sometimes they might be. It's pretty rare. Usually we're targeting audiences. We're targeting age groups. We're targeting hobbies, targeting based on what people do, what they follow, what they like. And so let's talk about the purchaser's funnel, the buyer's funnel. The buyer in social media, they're right there at the top. They're just scrolling. So they're not using Instagram inherently to purchase. They're using it and most likely to kill time, right? And Facebook, they're probably using it most likely to catch up with the groups that they're in or the people that they follow, look at pictures, whatever. So inherently with social media, it is still true that the word is social. They're inherently doing something other than shopping. And while they're doing that, our job is to convince them to buy something, which is difficult. It sounds easy because from our point of view, we always think that everybody wants to do what we want them to do. But what they want to do and what they're already doing is just scrolling. So how do I take someone that's scrolling and turn them into a purchaser? You can see as we go through this purchasing funnel here, how we can get them to be a purchaser. They're scrolling. We have to get the interest going. We have to get them interested. And again, that's going to be with a hook of some kind. Maybe it's good imagery. Maybe it's an offer. Maybe it's something that, I don't want to say shocking, but just surprising. Maybe it's something that just really sticks out. And so you have to find some way to get someone out of that scrolling, because both Facebook and Instagram, the scroll phase is fast. It really is fast. So we need to get them from scrolling to interest. And once we get someone past the interest phase into the search phase, that's when they're going to be pretty engaged. So now they're searching, maybe they're on your website searching around. Then they get to the point that they're comparing your product versus another product, or comparing your product versus a substitute, right? So maybe you sell, I don't know. Here's an example off the top of my head. Maybe you sell ladders online, and they can have a substitute like just getting on your tippy toes or just getting a step stool or putting a chair somewhere, right? It's a substitute. It's not exactly buying another ladder. But so most products have other substitutes that you can compare to as well that aren't necessarily, if I sell a purse, someone might buy another purse. Well, maybe they're going to buy a fanny pack, right? A substitute. Maybe they're just going to buy a backpack instead of another purse. So the comparing phase, once they're there, they're going to be pretty interested in buying. And then, of course, we get down there to the purchase. So social media, again, is difficult because these people are not inherently in the buying process. So let's compare some of the ad platforms. And we are going to go through these one by one here. Stick with me. So let's start with the elephant in the room, the biggest social media. I don't want to say the original social media, but the original behemoth of social media, which is Facebook. At this point, the audience skews a little bit older, and they're a little bit social with what they're trying to do. So when you are creating ads for these various platforms, you need to consider what the people are doing and who they are when creating the ad for it. So again, not what you want to say, but what they want to hear, what they need to receive to click on your ad to be hooked. So if my Facebook audience is a little bit older and a little bit more social, I may not be using, maybe Gen Z terminology, right? I may not reference in my ad, I may not reference popular media or things that are for younger people. Maybe I would just do that exact thing, but for older people. Or maybe I just don't use any of those references at all. Maybe I talk more about utility. Older people are a little more utilitarian, a little more toward use. Maybe they could be a little bit more price conscious because, I'm not wasting my money on that, right? So think about what that audience might be doing. And so the cost on Facebook is high. It's high to get on Facebook and Instagram. We'll talk about costs here in a little bit. But if the cost of Facebook is high, the engagement that we need from it also needs to be pretty high. If I'm going to pay a higher cost, I'm going to need a higher engagement. And so I've assigned a value score here of modest. Say Facebook it's going to be a place that you can make some money, but Facebook is not a brand maker. You're not going to get on Facebook and say, okay, I'm going to start spending money, and this is where I'm going to become a zillionaire, right? This is where my brand goes from this to $100 million. You're going to have, it's going to need to be part of your strategy, right? But it's not going to be just here. And the same goes for Instagram. They're going to be a little bit younger, not the youngest, because now we've got other social medias for those youngest people. They're going to skew a little bit younger for Instagram, and they're still going to be social. The creative on that platform is going to need to be mixed. Oh, I didn't even mention that for Facebook. The creative needs to be a little more polished. Facebook is a platform where the advertising has come to be well done. It's not as raw, right? It's professional photography. It's overlays, things like that. That's what works on Facebook, ads like that. And so let's go to Instagram here. The creative is kind of mixed. Instagram's kind of a mixed bag where the way in which it works, scrolling, you could have a mix of user-generated content, which is, just phone stuff. It really does work on Instagram, or polished stuff. And it just depends what you sell, what audience you're going after. But make sure to get that right as well. So make sure if I have, let's say I'm selling makeup and it's a girl and she's kind of looking at herself and, talking through what she just put on her face, make sure my audience is that. You can't get your audiences mixed up. You can't be too broad. So your ad itself, your creative needs to match your audience. And all of that needs to match the platform that you're on. So again, for Instagram, cost is high and value is modest. So Facebook and Instagram, you may be aware of this, you may not be, but they're owned by the same company. They're owned by Meta. And so you will advertise on both of those platforms in the exact same place. I'll show you how to do it, but it's very, very easy to go from one to the other to the point that you kind of just toggle the button on or off if you want to be on Instagram or Facebook or both. So it's pretty easy to advertise on both. But again, the ad itself needs to be different. You can't use the same ad for both. So we'll talk through that. So let's look at some other platforms here. TikTok, younger audience. I would say youngest audience, actually, compared to all the different platforms that we have out there right now. TikTok is amateur in terms of creative. So what I mean by amateur, it's not like you suck kind of amateur, but rather shot on the phone, shot in real life. They're still heavy into the whole dancing scene, right? Maybe that's something for you as well. It's played out at this point. It's done often, but it's done often because it works. So brands that want to advertise on TikTok, you need to fit into the newsfeed. You need to fit into what's going on in there. So you can't traffic some super polished ad there. It's just not going to work. It needs to fit in what's going on in that platform. So for the product that you sell, I need you to carefully consider if the audience there is a good audience for you or if you want it to be a good audience for you. And that there's a difference there. If you want to force it and you want young people to like your product, that may not actually happen. You need to actually step back and say, are the people on this platform, are they actually going to like what I'm selling? And think about that. Be honest with yourself. So for some of you guys, probably a good chunk of you guys, TikTok's not going to be the right place for you, for whatever you're selling. But if it is, it can be a great place to make money if you do have the right product and the right creative. I know people, I don't do much TikTok trafficking because most of the products I use are a little bit more adult oriented, but the people that I do know that are making money on TikTok, they're telling me that they're getting 5, 6, 7 to 1 returns on traffic that is not inherently shopping. Like I mentioned before, people on TikTok are on there being social and they're still seeing 5, 6, 7 to 1 returns on that. So that can be a pretty high value platform. You see, I put it right there, cost medium, but value pretty high if you have the right product for that. So again, consider that carefully. So let's talk Snapchat. I try my best not to be biased with this information I'm trying to give to you, but I've used Snapchat for a few different brands, and I've never seen a return. And I'm not even talking about a good return. Like I would have brands that spend thousands of dollars and make like a sale, like $20, $2,000 in, $20 out. So if your goal is branding, if you're Coca-Cola, if you're Pepsi, if you're, I don't know, a new movie coming out, your MGM Studios, that's probably a good place for you, right? But if you're trying to get direct interaction, e-commerce sales, stay as far away from Snapchat advertising as you can. They're pretty aggressive with their salespeople as well. I'm willing to bet if you have your brand up for at least 6 months, you are going to get an email from somebody in Snapchat's advertising saying, hey, I got a $1,000 coupon for you. As long as you spend another $1,000 with us and come join us, blah, blah, blah. Stay away from it. Just stay away from it. That's my advice to you. So let's keep moving on here. We have LinkedIn advertising. So most of you probably have a LinkedIn. You probably are fully aware of what you can find on LinkedIn, the kind of content you can find there. The audience is older. They're professional. Inherently, I mean, that's what you're doing on there. The people may not be professional people, right? But the platform is for professional interaction. So the creative is going to be very polished there, just like in Facebook, probably even more polished than Facebook. You're gonna wanna look very professional on LinkedIn. The cost, very high in LinkedIn, very high. And I'm talking like, if you wanna get started, we're talking $10 a click on LinkedIn, compared to on Google Ads, we were just talking about getting below $1 per click. So LinkedIn, the cost is very high, but if you have a product that is relevant to those people, the value can be very high. So I know it's a $10 cost per click, but they have really granular targeting features where I can target people based on their job title. I can target based on the company that they currently work at. I can target them whether or not they're currently looking for a job. So I can get people in really, really specific and high value parts of their life. So I can target CEOs, I can target HR directors. Let's say I have some kind of software that goes after HR people to help their employees exercise more or quit smoking or something like that. I want to target HR professionals. I can target just HR professionals in LinkedIn. That's a really powerful tool. But again, it's very expensive. So depending on what you're selling, I'm willing to bet the vast majority of you watching this is not going to be overly relevant to what you want to sell, but it's useful to know. Because as most of you guys become successful in building this company, I'm sure you're going to build more companies in the future, that LinkedIn will probably be useful for you. It's good for lead generation. It's good for software, like I was mentioning. It's really good for business to business advertising. So look into that. So then we go to YouTube. I like YouTube a lot as a platform. I like YouTube because there's something for everyone. It's huge. It really is huge. There's children's content on there. There's adult content. There's technical content. There's leisure content. There's everything you can imagine. And you can target pretty granularly on YouTube as well. So I can target based on what people search for, like what kind of videos they were looking for. I can target based on what channel they're watching. I can target what video they're watching. So if I have a really specific product and I want to target people that are watching one video that has millions of views. So some videos have millions of views. That's a lot of ads being trafficked to those people. So there's a fair amount of volume to be found just on single videos in YouTube. So that's worth looking into. Now the cost is somewhere in the middle, I'd say, for YouTube. It's moderately cost or moderately expensive, and the value is moderate as well. And let me say that that's kind of a broad stroke. If you are really gifted in knowing your audience, if you are really gifted in making a good ad, if you have a really good product, you can make a lot of money on YouTube. So it's worth looking into. But you need to make sure that you have the resources necessary. You need to make sure that you have either a video agency or some video skills of your own. If you have a really refined and polished product. Now on YouTube, self-filmed kind of raw content can be useful as well, depending on what you're selling. So if you're selling something like kind of in the exercise space, that's a little more, I guess, grassroots or something like that, then that could be useful. That could be fine. But again, you have to get your creative right depending on your product. So consider that. What is my product like? What kind of person is looking at this? Are they older? They're looking for more polished content. Are they younger? Do they not care? Am I selling makeup? That's more toward the youth anyway. So YouTube is kind of the place where all the things that I said before, that everything happens. Professional stuff happens, leisure stuff happens, creative stuff. There's a video for everybody on there. So it can be, depending on what you're doing, it can be useful. It could be useful, and it will be useful, actually. Let me say that. It will be useful if you can get it right and get the targeting correct. So I would recommend looking into YouTube. So let's talk about two other platforms that you may be curious about, but I highly recommend you don't go toward. So the first one is Twitter advertising. So first of all, a lot of brands stay away from Twitter right now because Twitter is a place for inflammatory discourse, if you will. It's just a place where a lot of negativity happens. And so a lot of brands want to just stay away from that completely. But that aside, I mean, you may be saying to yourself, I don't really care about that if it makes money. Twitter doesn't make great money for e-commerce brands like us. The value is very low. The cost is pretty high. I wouldn't recommend going there. So we can kind of gloss over that. Twitter has some pretty limited audience functioning, pretty limited ad functioning as well compared to what the cost is. So I would recommend you just don't even bother with it for just about any brand. I mentioned that if you're MGM Studios or something like that for Snapchat, I really don't know a use case for going to Twitter for advertising. And if you check their financials, they're publicly traded. If you check their financials, I'm not the only person that thinks that. They don't do too well from the advertising side compared to these other platforms. And the final one is Reddit. Reddit is a very informational space. It's a social media, and it truly is a social place. It's where direct conversation is happening. The creative there is pretty simple. Cost can be pretty high, and the value not that good. So you can target individual subreddits. You can target based on what people have searched for on Reddit. You can target people based on what Reddits they are a part of. So, and that's two different things. So I can put an ad on a subreddit so anybody, no matter where they're coming from, on that subreddit can see it. Or I can target someone that is a follower of that subreddit, and if they are somewhere else, they are still seeing that ad because I know the kind of things that they are interested in. So those are similar, but a little bit different. It's probably not worth looking into either. So for both, really for Snapchat, Twitter, and Reddit, probably just keep looking. There's enough opportunities. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, those places alone, you can spend thousands of dollars. So, I would just go there first. That's my recommendation.